Hello guys, and welcome to the Baywatch podcast, where I watch every episode of the hit 80s/90s show Baywatch. I'm your host DJ. Let's get started in this crazy episode. Forever and always, I'm always here. This episode was entitled Heat Wave. Air date September 29th, 1989. And what a doozy. We have 3 different plots happening right now, and let's tackle them in the order in which they happen. First, let me introduce you to part of the main plot, and then I'll get the other plots out of the way because they're kind of ridiculous. First off, the episode starts off at a hotel with color TV by RCA, which is the most 80s thing. RCA had lots of televisions and VCRs and different things. They were the happening company of the 80s and 90s. Still are a little to this day. But we open on a random man who is looking out the window at another random man looking at license plates in a car. He comes across a car that's license plate says the greatest show on earth. I don't know what the numbers said, but I thought about the circus when I saw it. Once the guy inside the hotel room realizes that the guy outside the hotel room spotted his car, it's time for him and his son to fly. He basically picks his son up as quiet as a mouse and takes him outside and puts him in the car. He then gets a screwdriver and inflates the other guy's tire while the other guy's in the hotel office, I guess, trying to find out where the man in the hotel room is. And when he gets back in the car, the little boy wakes up and says, "Is it him? Yes, he's found us." And they run off, but the other guy can't chase after them because his tire is now flat. Whew! What an opening. So after hearing on the radio that it's going to be 108 degrees in Los Angeles and they're having a heat wave burning in their hearts. I had to, it was right there. But anyway, Mitch and Hobie are at their house, and Mitch is making some bacon. And Hobie comes down the stairs without a shirt on because he's so hot, and he tells his father, are we like immune to like air conditioning? Are you aware that it's been invented or something to that effect? And Mitch goes, we live on the beach, we don't need air conditioning. Yes you do. I live in an upstairs apartment and I need air conditioning, believe me. The doorbell rings, and Mitch goes to the door, and we're introduced to Steve and Mike, the 2 that were in the opening of the episode. Steve is one of Mitch's old lifeguard friends, and Mike just so happens to be his son. And because they just so happen to be in town, and we don't know what the man in the beginning that was chasing after them wants, but just because they just so happen to be in town, out of nowhere, Steve suggests that they just stay at Mitch's house. And then he starts eating Mitch's bacon. What a pal, what a friend. So, before I continue with this main plot, we have to talk about Eddie's plot in this. Oh my god, why? Here is something that would never fly in an episode today. It just would not. Eddie spends the duration of the freaking episode looking at a random woman on the beach who's reading a book. He literally comes to work and stares at her as he backs up to his lifeguard tower. Then, later on, when there's a confrontation in the water, he drops his sunglasses at her feet, picks them up and stares at her while walking away. Then there's a freaking montage of Eddie staring at this girl. Over 100 people have probably drowned at this point, but it turns out that, and the writers remember that Trevor is a character too, that she's been waiting for Trevor all day, because Eddie sits down and says, "You've been one of my best customers. Eddie, you're a lifeguard. You don't work at the grocery store and give people groceries and give their change back once they pay for them. You're a lifeguard. She's not a customer. She's just a swimmer." And he says, "I'd like to take you to dinner." And Trevor's like, "She's taken, mate." And it's like this weird thing. And then I'll get to back to the main plot to understand the confrontation that takes place in the water and Trevor's whole part in it as well. So our other plot, before we get to our main plot, is Deathglare has to decide whether or not he wants to be a lawyer or a lifeguard. And for some odd reason, he hightails it all the way to headquarters, takes a shower in his lifeguard shorts, and then informs Mitch that he's not going to be a lifeguard today, but he's going to be a lawyer. That would be like if a chef came in full uniform, went in the kitchen, and said to all his staff, "Hi, I'm not cooking today. I am going to be homesick. Bye." It would be dumb, and it is. So then we get Craig's weird office that looks like it's from a used set from Murder, She Wrote, which would not be a bad thing, but Craig's in it, so he kind of ruins it. Anyway, his boss comes in and says that one of their clients, who he billed $6,000 to, wants his money back because he saw Craig being a lifeguard on the beach at Baywatch. I don't care what the lawyer does in his free time. If he got me a good settlement, I'm sure he earned every ounce of that $6,000. But whatever, this is Baywatch. We have no logic. So the boss basically says, either be a lifeguard or a lawyer. You can't be both. And Craig's response is to stand there doing his signature death glare, like he really wishes the guy would basically burst into flame or something. He basically stands there staring at him for 5 to 10 seconds, and I really wish they would have said, "Cut! Stop that! Don't do it! What is wrong with you?" But we have to do that, and now Craig is pondering whether or not he's going to be a lawyer or a lifeguard. What a dilemma. So meanwhile, back into our main plot. So Steve offers to teach Hobie how to body surf, and Mike doesn't want to go with them. He wants to stay on the beach, but he wants to go to the Malibu Pier. And we all know what a great place that pier is. But unfortunately, they leave him there all by himself. And then we're introduced to Ricky. Ricky is being yelled at by his mom for throwing wet sand on people who are trying to sunbathe. So he comes over and starts talking to Mike. And Ricky is played by Ian Thomas, who you may know from the American Pie movies and Halloween Resurrection. I love this guest stars before they were stars thing. It's just so cool. I'm having fun doing this. So anyway, Ricky's like, "I just overheard your dad say you're not allowed to talk to strangers, so I guess you can't talk to me." And Mike's like, "I don't think he meant kids my own age, so now it's time for kids getting into trouble montage." This consists of them jumping over people who are sunbathing, going into places they're not supposed to go to, and just generally having fun. They decide to explore a storm drain because it's open and it's there, so why not go in? Even though Mike is reluctant, he's not sure. Eventually, after having fun with someone who's not his kid, Steve realizes that Mike is missing. He sees a kid in the water and thinks it's him and goes and grabs him. The kid starts screaming, "Let me go!" and the father ends up going in the thing and saying, "Let go of my son!" And there's a confrontation. So Trevor runs and the camera decides to show us his crotch, because that's something we needed to verify that he had. So eventually they settle the dispute, and once Mike says, "I thought your son was my son," the guy's like, "Well, why didn't you say that in the first place?" "It's okay, no big deal. It happens." So then there's Jill, maintaining the Lost Children's Center somewhere at Baywatch headquarters. And there's a lot of kids that apparently have been lost from their parents. Apparently one of them is named Spider-Man, and I really am so intrigued that I'd like to know more. Literally, some parent calls Jill on the phone and says, "What's the child's name?" "Spider-Man?" Okay. So then it's revealed that the random guy that saw the license plate at the start of the episode, and by the way, Steve's car looks like it's from Friday the 13th, only it's red instead of yellow. Anyway, just something I observed. So anyway, it's revealed that this guy is a private detective, and Mike has kidnapped his son because his wife divorced him and only allowed him to see his son every other weekend. And Craig goes, "We're way too deep in this. We have to call the police." The lawyer is at work, people. So they decide to forget about the legal stuff and focus on finding Mike, who realizes by this time that he and his newfound friend Ricky are locked in the storm drain and can't get out. And it's high tide, so the water's coming in. So after standing at the gate for hours, screaming, "Help us, we're in here," they decide to go through a hole where they have no idea where it goes, and when they're trying to go through it and not actually fall down, water comes and knocks them through it, and now they're in the middle of an actual storm drain. Even though they see that there is a hole up above them with a lot of light, for some odd reason they don't scream out for help like they were doing earlier. They just sort of stand there in the middle and look up as water keeps coming down on top of them. And gee, if I was the child actors that have to do this, I would have quit acting. I mean, at some point it looks almost like Ricky is really drowning and that there's no acting involved because water keeps falling on top of them. So, have no fear, Mitch equips the junior lifeguards. Yep, that's a thing. And Mitch tells them their object is to go where they're never allowed to go. So all the junior lifeguards go exploring stuff like adult bookstores and dumping sites that have bad chemicals in them. But there's no luck. Hobie finds his way to Shawnee's lifeguard tower. Yep, she's in this episode. I almost forgot about her for a second. Basically, she's sitting there staring off in the abyss, not doing anything, and Hobie comes up and says, "Did anyone check the storm drain? Did anybody go in there? Oh, there was a couple maintenance men there earlier, but they're not allowed to go. But no one's allowed to go in there but them." Oh my god! How did she become a lifeguard? I would not want her to guard my life to save my life. Oh my god! I just came up with that on the spot. I am on a roll, you guys. I am loving doing this. This is so much fun. I would not let her guard my life to save my life. Man, that should be on a t-shirt. Anyway, finally, Shawnee comes to Hobie's conclusion and is like, "Yeah, we should check that. We should check the storm drain." Ding, 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 the light bulb finally goes off. So, they go and find where the storm drain goes, and it just so happens that two random extras are sitting there eating ice cream, and the boys are just standing in the middle of the storm drain, shaking because they're cold, and they haven't said anything. It isn't until they put their heads down by the thing and yell, "Hello, is anybody in there?" that the boys go, "Help, help, we're in here! Help us, don't let us die in here!" So, for some odd reason, even though there's firefighters and a rescue team, Mitch and Craig decide to go through a different way. And I'm guessing because we don't see what they're walking through that it's gotta be poop, because what could warrant this response? "Oh, God, ew, oh, ugh!" It's gotta be. What else could it be? So, while they're walking through whatever they're walking through, Craig decides to bring up yet again his moral dilemma of whether to be a lifeguard or a lawyer. And Mitch's response is, "Well, if you become a lawyer, I'll have to clean out your locker." And literally, I'm not exaggerating when I say, Craig is like, "You give my locker away? You actually give my locker away?" I mean, Craig, what are they supposed to do? Put it behind glass and build a shrine? Like, literally, dude, what? Your locker can't go to someone else? What is the big deal? So from this, Craig's wife Gina had suggested earlier that he just not work for a corporation and just work for himself. That way he can take the cases he wants to take and not take the cases they want him to take, and work from home and never leave the beach or her for the rest of his life till death do them part. Aww. So guys, in case you were on the edge of your seat wondering, Craig is going to be a lifeguard full time. Hallelujah. Hallelujah. He's going to be a lifeguard, going to be a lifeguard, going to be a lifeguard. What a relief. I was on the edge of my seat wondering if that was going to happen. Just like I was on the edge of my seat wondering if Eddie was going to score with random girl he was talking to. No, I didn't. I could care less. But okay. So eventually, Mitch and Craig get to the boys, and somehow that little plastic thing, red thing that they carry around, life raft thing, Mitch is able to use that to basically break open a steel hole to get in to where the boys are. But yet the firefighters and rescue team can't lift up a single slab of concrete to get them out. So they decide to blowtorch the thing, and they get them out that way. And once again, the day is saved thanks to Mitch Buchanan and Craig. So, after this, the detective realizes has a change of heart, and his heart grew 3 sizes that day. And he decides not to call the mom and tell him what the dad did. He decides that he's out of a job, and kidnapping charges be damned. And all comes to a happy end. Meanwhile, Craig and Gina have a happy moment together. They basically talk about how he's going to be a lifeguard from now on and lawyer ever so often. Mitch comes out of nowhere and says, before that, Craig goes, "You should have seen Mitch today. He was fantastic when he saved those kids." You were there. I mean, I would have said it like this. "You should have seen me and Mitch today. We saved 2 boys who could have drowned if we weren't there." Instead of, "You should have seen Mitch today. He was fantastic. I did nothing, but I still want to be a lifeguard. Yay!" So Mitch comes around the corner and he's like, Did you tell her you get to keep your locker?" And the episode is over. Wow! Even though this was an episode that was entitled Heat Wave, it didn't focus entirely on the heat, which is kind of weird. But, it is what it is. If this episode cut out its Eddie subplot and its Craig subplot that we didn't really care if it got resolved or not, maybe the main plot of the boys in the storm drain would have been far better if Hobie was involved instead of random kid Ricky, who as far as I know we never see or hear from again. On the next episode of Baywatch, which I'm very happy to recap and analyze for you, basically, to recap this episode for you, since I haven't done it in the last 2 episodes, Mitch and Craig save 2 kids out of a storm drain. Eddie gets rejected by Trevor's supposedly girlfriend, and Craig decides he's going to be a lifeguard and a first and a lawyer second. The end. On the next episode of Baywatch, and I'm so happy, David Spade, as well as Lieutenant Olivia Benson. Oh, I can't wait to talk about that episode, which will be in a few minutes, because I'm posting that one as well today, and then I won't be posting any more episodes until next week. Overall, this episode was a vast improvement from the first one and the last one that I just posted. But it could have been better. The next episode is a little bit far more entertaining, so stick with me, because forever and always, I'm always here.